Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhare Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhare Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhare Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parvrajacharya Tadasasmad. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki, Grantaraj Shri Nectar of Instruction Ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Shri Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna devotees. I understand we're doing like a seminar, you could say, on Nectar of Instruction. That's correct, yeah? Is that something like that? Right, which is good. It's very good. It's a book which perhaps is not focused on as much as some others of Srila Prabhupada's books, but it's a really important book because it's full of instructions. And we need instructions, we need guidance to really get us on the right path and keep us on the right path and out of the wrong path or paths. So today we are focusing on Nectar of Instruction, verse 2, and particularly the third section, third part of that verse, which is dealing with prajalpa, or talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yes, so I'll read. I guess we don't have verse sheets, but if you've got a telephone, of course, with Prabhupada's books on it, then you can look at Nectar of Instruction, verse 2. Atyahara prayashascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha lolyam cha shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. Atyahara prayashascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha lolyam cha Shadbir Bhaktir Vinashyati Atyahara Prayashascha Prajalpo Niyamagraha Jana Sangascha Lolyam Cha Shadbir Bhaktir Vinashyati. Hare Krishna. Prayashascha Prajalpo Niyamagraha Jana Sangascha Lolyam Cha Bhaktir Vinashyati Atyahara Prayashascha Prajalpo Niyamagraha Jana Sangascha Lolyam Cha Shadbir Bhaktir Vinashyati. Matajayas. Rajascha Prajalpo Yamagraha Janasangascha Lolyam Cha Shadbir Bhaktir Vinashyati Atyahara Prayashascha Prajalpo Niyamagraha Janasangascha Lolyam Cha Shadbir Bhaktir Vinashyati Ati Ahara. Overeating or too much collecting. Prayasa. Over endeavoring. Cha. And. Prajalpa. Idle talk. Niyama. Rules and regulations. Agraha. Too much attachment to. Or agraha. Too much neglect of. Janasanga. Association with worldly-minded persons. Cha. And. Lolyam. Ardent longing or greed. Cha. And. Shadvi. By these six. Bhakti. Devotional service. Vinashyati. Is destroyed. Translation. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following six activities. 1. Eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2. Over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5. Associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6. Being greedy for mundane achievements. So yes, those 6 activities, as Srila Rupa Goswami, who is the author, is saying here, these 6 activities spoil one's devotional service. Vinashyati. Vinashyati literally, well, it means destroyed. Yeah, literally means destroyed. Okay, so we are focusing here on number 3, which is prajalpa, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. So Srila Prabhupada gives an extensive purport on the whole verse, but we're just focusing on this one part. And Srila Prabhupada, there's a paragraph here, sort of in the middle or somewhere in the middle of the whole purport. There's a purport in which Srila Prabhupada focuses on this prajalpa, or unnecessary talking. Let us just read this paragraph. So another impediment is prajalpa, unnecessary talking. When we mix with a few friends, we immediately begin unnecessary talking, sounding just like croaking toads. Haribol. If we must talk, we should talk about the Krishna consciousness movement. Those outside of the Krishna consciousness movement are interested in reading heaps of newspapers, magazines, and novels, solving crossword puzzles, and doing many other nonsensical things. In this fashion, people simply waste their valuable time and energy. In the Western countries, old men, retired from active life, play cards, fish, watch television, and debate about useless socio-political schemes. All these and other frivolous activities are included in the prajalpa category. Intelligent persons interested in Krishna consciousness should never take part in such activities. Let me just read the verse again. Atyahara prayashascha prajalpo niyamagraha janasangascha lolyam cha shadbir bhaktir vinashyati. One's devotional service is spoiled when he becomes too entangled in the following 6 activities. 1, eating more than necessary or collecting more funds than required. 2, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are very difficult to obtain. 3, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. 4, practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them and not for the sake of spiritual advancement, or rejecting the rules and regulations of the scriptures and working independently or whimsically. 5, associating with worldly-minded persons who are not interested in Krishna consciousness. And 6, being greedy for mundane achievements. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presta Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastya Chadeshatarne Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So devotees, this is a very important subject matter. In general, things which can negatively affect your Krishna consciousness and negatively affect you. And then specifically, this prajalpa, talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. So, yeah, this is all very important. And I wanted to begin by reading, it's a little conversation between Srila Prabhupada and one of his disciples named Upendra. So, as Srila Prabhupada sat in his quarters, he overheard Upendra gossiping in the adjoining room. Prabhupada called for Upendra, who entered shame-faced. You were laughing? Yes. Gossiping? Upendra responded coyly. Is talking about other devotees gossiping, Srila Prabhupada? Yes. Yes, I was gossiping. Prabhupada was concerned for his disciples' well-being. Again, he chastised Upendra. This devotee, that devotee. Life is short. Do not waste your time uselessly. Prabhupada directed Upendra to get a copy of Srimad Bhagavatam from the bookshelf and read. When two devotees come together, they should discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada was speaking more softly now. Do you remember when you used to memorize the Bhagavatam verses? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Upendra offered an excuse. Oh, Srila Prabhupada, my mind is so lazy. Prabhupada didn't agree. No, you're not lazy. You're just misdirecting your energies. Before Upendra left the room, Prabhupada spoke at length about the debilitating effects of prajalpa, mundane talk, on a devotee's spiritual progress. He asked that Upendra repeat the instructions to those devotees with whom he had just been speaking so frivolously, and requested him to once again take up learning Sanskrit verses. Hare Krishna. You know, this is quite a subject. Each one of these items, these 6, is quite a subject because we are coming from conditioned backgrounds, and therefore we have, you could say, more or less spontaneous attractions to doing all of these things. Yes, it's sort of like Raganuga materialism. I mean, there's no such term actually, but sort of, if you know what Raganuga means, you'd get the idea. We don't have to make any effort. It just comes to us, just like that. And even, you know, I've been living here in this temple since since before it opened actually. Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Shri Giri Govardhan Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Yeah, not all the time. I've been spending some time in Joburg from time to time, but the majority of the time, since 1980, whatever, like 83, 80, say at least 84, I've at least been based here and lived most of the time here. So that's what it's, I don't know, 40 years, 30 years, well over 30 years. And, there are different phenomena which occur here. But one very common phenomenon is that, particularly on the weekends and even particularly Sunday morning, when we're sitting here chanting japa, devotees from the congregation come in, and that's just wonderful, to chant japa with us, and that's just wonderful, because after all, if you're living in the congregation means you're not living, it's not so likely at least that you're living in a place with as sacred, pure and transcendental an atmosphere as this very temple room that we're sitting in right now. So you come on a Sunday, or you come anytime, but here I'm talking about the Sunday morning program. So you come, and it's a great spiritual opportunity to absorb yourself in hearing and chanting. But I can report to you, all of you nice devotees, that in my really, really extensive experience of sitting in this temple room in the morning, in the japa program, and chanting my japa, that on Sundays when congregational devotees come in, that there is a tendency among some at least to get together with other devotees who they haven't seen, for a while, and chat. And sometimes it's a distraction to those of us who are actually trying to chant japa. And of course, I don't go over and sort of tune in. Are they talking about Krishna, or is it just, some less transcendental discussion? But even if you're talking about Krishna, and, I was, as Prabhupada was saying here, when two devotees come together, they should discuss Srimad Bhagavatam. So even if you come together and you're discussing, what I read in Srimad Bhagavatam the other day, this and that, and yeah. But even if you are talking like that, as opposed to just the usual, how are you and what's going on and what's happening sort of discussion, it's best to go outside. There's a beautiful foyer, and you can discuss other things there, but japa time means japa time. So, I would say then that it's arguable, put it that way, it's arguable that these little chittings and chattings that go on, and I've seen so many, oh my gosh, over the last 40 or so years. It's arguable, and I'm sure that at least sometimes it is actual prajalpa. Just, as our old friend, the late Bimal Prasad Prabhu would say, shooting the breeze. So anyway, this subject, prajalpa is very important because we are habituated to, when we meet our friends, to talking about something. Yeah. And one time, Srila Prabhupada was being interviewed by some sort of reporter, and the reporter began the interview by asking, "How are you?" And Srila Prabhupada, which is, normally understood to be a sort of a pleasantry, just a nice thing to do. I can inform you that in Russia, for what it's worth, if you ask a person when you meet them, "How are you?" they'll wonder, what's going on with you, because it's not their practice. And if you ask them, "How are you?" they will get into a real description of how they are, because they think you're actually asking how they are. Whereas actually you're just saying, like hello or something. But anyway, this reporter said to Prabhupada, "How are you?" And Srila Prabhupada responded, "What does it matter to you how I am?" Yes. If I was not well, would you do something? So it's just an interesting little point. But particularly, we need to, as part of our cultivation of Krishna consciousness, and if you're in the category of devotees who at some time in the last 35 years or whatever it is, have come during japa and sat down and started a little and sometimes even slightly noisy discussion during japa, I hope I haven't offended you, because you are devotees, but it's something to bear in mind. So, Srila Prabhupada, in the paragraph of the purport we read, Srila Prabhupada mentioned the toads. The toads, they croak. Now, I take it that he's referring to something which he discussed on a number of occasions, which is the frogs and their croaking. Because toads, we don't have so much experience, I think, of toads in South Africa. We got frogs. In fact, this temple sometimes is one of the South African capitals of the frogs. Oh boy, it really is. But elsewhere, Srila Prabhupada, on a number of occasions, refers to the frogs croaking. Yes, and the way Prabhupada explains it, which is just really appropriate, is that when the frogs croak, they can go on for hours. Just the same, croak, 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 and just go on for hours. But the way Prabhupada explains it is that frogs are one of the natural foods for snakes. And when the frogs croak, then the snakes, of course, they hear, and they can easily find the frog, just like that, and just kill the frog and eat the frog. So the way Prabhupada puts it is that the frog is croaking, and the frog thinks that it's so nice, like I am serenading. It's just very like beautiful singing. I am serenading. but actually it's just croaking. But then beyond just being croaking, it's an invitation to death. Just inviting death. Here I am, over here. No, not that side, over this side. That's here, you got it. Here I am. Just inviting death. Come on, kill me. So what's the intelligence in that? It's just obviously, it's terrible. But this is the way Prabhupada elsewhere talks about, at least one of the ways that he talks about prajalpa. Truly mundane talk. It's one thing to have a Krishna conscious little discussion. What have you read in Srimad Bhagavatam last week? Well, I read this and that, and sort of disturb the devotees who are chanting japa, but at least it's a Krishna conscious discussion. And it's another thing to talk about the latest politics. Are the Russians going to invade Ukraine? What is Mr. Trump up to? What is his protege, Mr. Johnson, up to? And, what's Cyril up to? And all these sorts of things, and how your parents, and what I heard, and, oh, did you really? Tell me all about it. Real prajalpa is just mundane. Yeah. Whenever and with whoever we get into that sort of discussion, then it's classic prajalpa. And because our lifetimes, our life expectancies are defined, apparently, by numbers of breaths, not by numbers of years. This is what we hear. Not by numbers of years, but by numbers of breaths. Then, if you expend breaths talking about these types of things, then you're wasting your life. And you're calling death closer. Just calling death. Here I am. That's it. Me. Yeah. The one with, dressed like this or that. Here I am. Come and get me. In the Bhagavatam, in the 8th canto, there's a discussion of the appearance of birth, death, old age, disease in personal forms. As personalities, the personality of death, the personality of old age, jara. So there it's described that jara is an elderly lady. Jara meaning old age. So she's the personality of old age. And jara, as you get older, Prabhupada said old age. He said two things in this regard. Old age begins at 50, and then Prabhupada also said old age begins at 60. So depending on which definition you take, there's a number of us here who are in old age, and we're all going to make it sooner or later. But the description is that old age, the personality, this elderly lady, when you become old, then she embraces you. She embraces you, the embrace of old age. And after some time in old age, in her company, then she says to you, I want you to meet my brother. Oh yes, he's a great person. He's my brother. He's very dear to me. I want to introduce you to my brother. His name is Mrityu, or death. And she hands you over to her brother, who is death, and that's it. So we don't want to waste our time. We don't want to waste our breaths by talking unnecessarily about mundane things. You know, of course, in a family situation, or in so many situations, sometimes you may have to talk about money, about health, and even you might have to talk a little about politics, maybe. So that's one thing. But here, Srila Prabhupada, you know, Prabhupada's very sort of economical and cost-conscious in his use of words. And Prabhupada says here, talking unnecessarily. It's one thing if you have to talk about, like we said, money, do we have enough, and what are we going to do, and these types of things, but just unnecessarily, then that's really like classic prajalpa. So as devotees, you know what, devotees? We need to practice. There's so many things in Krishna consciousness which are kind of foreign to us in terms of our upbringings. And talking to others, of course, is not foreign to us at all. But talking to us, like Prabhupada says, about Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, about devotional service and devotional things, this may be a little foreign to us, and therefore we may need to practice it in a sort of deliberate way. So devotees, you know, I'm afraid I'm going to Pietermaritzburg for the program, and I'm leaving at 9, so I won't be able to check on you by, you know, coming around and really checking you out. But I'm going to make a suggestion. During breakfast will be served to everyone, right? Over in the tent, right? So that's great, that's nice. And it's a nice opportunity, perfect opportunity to sit with friends, Krishna conscious friends, and have a little talk about Krishna consciousness. So I would like you all to please take the opportunity to deliberately practice. Sit down with your friend, and, you know, it's all right. You can ask them how they are, because if you're a South African Indian, you must ask people how they are first. I've had so much experience. So you can ask them how they are. That's all right. But then I would like you then, please, for your own sakes, to begin a Krishna conscious discussion in a deliberate way. Think about it. What am I going to say? And think about something that you read. Think about what was said in this class. And ask the devotee, what do you think about such and such and such and such? And have a Krishna conscious discussion. What do you think? Anyway, that's my request. And I may possibly, we'll see, I may appoint a spy or two to go around and just tune in. Or maybe you haven't seen the microphones under the prasadam tables. Have you seen them? But really, we don't want to be oppressive or aggressive or unpleasant like that. But if you can cultivate this practice, a habit of when you get together with devotees, having a constructive Krishna conscious discussion as opposed to, something more mundane, then it'll be very good for you. It will really be very good for you to cultivate that habit. So, here's a little something. Listen to this. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam. From a purport. Our weapons in the campaign against prajalpa and mind pollution may include novels, dramas, paintings, films, musical recordings, festivals, formal lectures, seminars, and casual meetings, all centered on Krishna. Why should the forces of illusion possess all the weapons and not the devotees? So these are being described here as our weapons in the campaign against prajalpa and mind pollution. So it's not just a matter of wasting our time talking about things which just have no relevance to our lives in Krishna consciousness. It's not just a matter of that, but the next point is that you hear this talk, or you speak the talk, which means you also hear it, about useless material things, and they enter your system, your internal psychological, emotional system. That, the Russians may invade Ukraine. I don't like that. So you get emotional about it. The Pakistanis are going to invade India. You know what I mean? You become emotionally, not just psychologically, but emotionally invested in whatever it is. So this is mind pollution. We know about air pollution. We know about water pollution. Things like this. But there's also mind pollution. And for anyone, it's important to avoid it and deal with it if you've been exposed to it. But for devotees, it's so important because our process is called Krishna consciousness. We are dealing with the consciousness. Our process is not just Krishna work, although we do and we should work hard for Krishna. But actually the process is called Krishna consciousness. It's all about what goes on up here and here in the heart. At least that's the focal point. We do work as Radhe Shyam Prabhu is doing. Look at that. Hari Bol. Como está? Está bien. He's doing work for Krishna, you see. So yeah, we should do work for Krishna. But it should, not just should, but it has to be, at least to get the maximum benefit, it has to be in Krishna consciousness, not just work. Because Prabhupada, on a number of occasions, talked about management, that in the world at large, there are so many expert managers. They can wheel and deal and manipulate people and situations just incredibly expertly. But they're not Krishna conscious. So our managers and our everybody, but our managers should be Krishna conscious. And then by Krishna's mercy, by Krishna's empowerment, they'll be able to get devotees to do things by inspiring them in Krishna conscious ways. So the devotees will realize the fact that I'm so fortunate to be given this opportunity to do service, and not just, oh gosh, they caught me and now I got to wash the pots. Oh Lord, I should have escaped quicker. So these are some basic thoughts, but there's more. I've got a whole lot of things here. Here's an interesting thing. Listen to this. And this is for more serious devotees. If you're not so serious, anyway, it's for you because you should become more serious. But it's particularly for more serious devotees. This is from Prabhupada. Vaishnav Siddhanta, according to Guru, Shastra, and Sadhu. The Shastras are not to be researched merely as so much ammunition for our own opinions. When we enter debate, actually this is Satsvarup Maharaj, when we enter debate with an egoistic zest to defeat the opposition, we miss the point and end up fighting with the Vaishnavas. In the prayer known as Hansaguya, offered by Daksha to Lord Vishnu, Daksha concluded that the method of logical dispute is actually a product of illusion. This is something now from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta. Listen to this. Listen to this, devotees. Sriman Mahaprabhu, Lord Caitanya, told us to neither hear worldly topics nor discuss them. We should neither eat palatable foods nor wear opulent clothing. He gave those instructions for those who have developed faith in and taste for worshipping Lord Hari. In other words, those who are a little more advanced. Eating palatable foods is harmful, but it does not inconvenience others or create obstacles in their worship of Krishna. Wearing opulent clothing, however, is more harmful to others than you or someone eating palatable foodstuffs. When we dress attractively, we draw others' eyes to ourselves. The purpose of gorgeous dress is to distract people's minds and eyes from Lord Krishna's worship. The tongue's greed, its urges, harm our devotional service. Lord Caitanya said, Jivara lalaseye ita utidaya shishnodara parayana Krishna nahi paya. One who is subservient to the tongue and who thus goes here and there, devoted to the genitals and the belly, cannot attain Krishna. So then he says, his sort of summary, hearing worldly topics is more harmful to us than eating palatable foods. Similarly, speaking, so that was hearing. Similarly, speaking prajalpa is more harmful to others than our dressing opulently. When we gossip or indulge in worldly topics, we become like prostitutes. Gossip contaminates and disturbs people's hearts. The more taste one has for useless talks, the less natural taste one has for Krishna Katha. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami said, Asadvarta Vesha Vishaja Mati Sarvasya Harini. Worldly topics are like prostitutes. They contaminate and disturb one's mind. Wherever a few people gather, there's bound to be idle talk. That is why devotees always glorify Krishna Katha. If we discuss Krishna Katha, no one will have the opportunity to gossip. Those who are serious about worshipping Krishna should neither hear nor speak worldly topics, nor should they pay attention to palatable foods or opulent dress. Yes. So, whenever useless discussion develops, or hearing or reading, because reading is a form of hearing, whenever useless discussions, like even particularly useless arguments, develop, generally they arise on the basis of material conceptions within our hearts. Envy, pride, attachment to sense gratification, foolishness, self-pride. So while we're discussing topics about Krishna at breakfast, right? 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 Right. Yeah. We should avoid useless arguments. Practicing devotees, Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, practicing devotees should always be careful to avoid useless arguments. And what to speak of blasphemy, talking badly about devotees. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, speech in the form of blaspheming devotees is the source of great inauspiciousness. If one wants to attain devotion to Lord Hari, then he should make a vow like this: in this life, I will never blaspheme devotees. By blaspheming them, all one's virtues are destroyed. By blaspheming Lord Mahadev, Lord Shiva, and this is actually the part of Srimad Bhagavatam we're reading right at the moment in our Bhagavatam classes here. So by blaspheming the supremely pure Lord Mahadev, Lord Shiva, Prajapati Daksha, the best of ascetics, met with severe inauspiciousness. You know what happened to him? He ended up with the head of a goat. Yeah, because of his criticism of Lord Shiva, who is a great devotee. Yes, so devotees, these are some thoughts on the subject of Prajalpa. And let me close by some final words here from Narada Bhakti Sutra. Narada stated that a bhakta or a bhaktin shouldn't hear from people who speak of women, wealth, and atheists, or men, wealth, and atheists. Even members of a religious movement have to be careful in their talks, or they too may become another association of harsh and idle talkers like the non-devotees. One has to distinguish between responsible dialogue on important issues and talk that leads nowhere. And to actually conclude, and fasten your seatbelts, because this is about the most sort of pointed thing today. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami in Mana Shiksha, Instructions to the Mind, he sort of raises a hypothetical question or situation that devotees, some group of devotees, they're talking about another devotee, but in kind of negative ways, sort of talking about a problematic devotee. Every yatra has at least one. Don't worry, but don't become that one. And some have more than one. Problematic devotees. So the group of devotees is talking about the problematic devotee, and he's like this, and he's like that, and so on. And another devotee coming, not part of the discussion, interjects that, why are you talking like this? It's not nice. And someone from the group of devotees says, but we're talking about a devotee. It is Bhakta Katha. It is devotee Katha. In other words, arguing that actually not only is it sort of acceptable, but actually it's good, because we're talking about a devotee. But they're criticizing. So Srila Raghunath Das Goswami says, these devotees talking about that devotee, they may think it's purifying, it's good. Like taking a bath is purifying, it's good. It helps us in our Krishna consciousness. So Srila Raghunath Das Goswami says, yes, you could think of it in such terms to some degree, like you're taking a bath. He says, but it's like you're taking a bath in donkey urine. Excuse me, but you get the idea, don't you? Yes. So anyway, for us, we're all here attending the program, but which essentially means everyone's serious, trying to develop their Krishna consciousness. To work on this aspect of avoiding prajalpa and rather cultivating the mood and attachment to actual discussion in Krishna consciousness. It's a very important, it's a vital part of our program for our development as devotees. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any comments or questions? Jai Sachinandan Prabhu, loud and clear, please.
Thank you, Maharaj. It was very instructive, especially about the japa. And japa is like the most important activity for the devotees. And thanks for emphasizing that point. In terms of the Prajalpa, I was thinking in Ram Leela, mantra, the Anshpact, how she poisoned the mind of the mother of Bharat. I just can't get a name now. The mother of Bharat. Kaikeyi, yes, thank you. And which eventually led to the banishment of Ram to the forest.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good point. Sri Damodar Prabhu, any comment, question? Mataji?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you very much for the class. I'd just like to ask you, if you're in a situation where you are helping, whether it's a devotee or a non-devotee, and you obviously now in the company engaged either in service or just for a prolonged period of time, you are with the person and they engage in sort of these mundane things. How do you actually try to get out of it, because you are sort of tied either to the service with the person, or you actually out of compassion, because if you're going to sever that tie or relationship with that person and that person's dependent on you, it becomes like sort of difficult to juggle it, but the person...
See, like so many things in life, just in life, but like so many things in Krishna conscious, we have to practice and develop expertises. And this is just one of the very important things. I mean, in the broad sense, it's one of the really important things we have to really try to cultivate an expertise in. Means sort of like redirecting what would otherwise be basically a mundane discussion, redirecting or injecting Krishna consciousness into it. And, if the person that you're trying to help is a devotee, hopefully it wouldn't be too hard. But if the person is not a devotee, if it's like, your sick mother or someone like that who's really not a devotee, then the more you can learn how to do it in such ways that it touches the heart of the person, so they actually start to develop some interest in Krishna consciousness, that's a more advanced level. And Prabhupada, he was really good at that. Of course, Prabhupada, he's special, but he's our example also. That sometimes he would meetings would be arranged, people would be invited, important people, to come and meet with him. People who just got nothing to do with Krishna consciousness and they don't know anything about it. But Prabhupada would often start the discussion in ways that that person would find relevant to themselves, and then he would bring Krishna consciousness in more. Like, I was not personally present, but other devotees who were personally present, I was around in the same place, but not in the same room. When Prabhupada met with a person called Graham Hill, who, I don't know if you've heard of, but many years ago, I guess the 60s, something like that, he was the leading Formula One car racing person in the world, Graham Hill. So Prabhupada started the discussion by talking a little bit about motor cars and then brought it to Krishna consciousness. So we have to, like so many things, as we said, so many things for us because of our upbringing, our backgrounds, we have just like spontaneous attractions to material versions, in this case of discussions. So we have to actually consciously, deliberately practice cultivating the ability to inject Krishna consciousness into the types of situations you're talking about. And if one really learns it, practices it and learns it, then you can really help a lot of people who you wouldn't perhaps expect to be able to help because you feel they're just too mundane. What do you think of that?
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Hari Bol, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.